Alright, hello my friends, and welcome to some Mechabellum. Today I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm going to be spectating two extremely high-level players and commentating on how they are organizing their game and making decisions. I think this will give us a lot of insight into kind of how extremely top-level players play, and I think it'll be pretty fun. If you aren't familiar with me, I'm top 100 in my region, but not at quite the level of these players, so it will be really interesting to try to learn from them as well. Alright, so we've got Aerial Specialist versus Rhino Specialist. So right away, one thing that we're going to be looking for is how can you make this Aerial Specialist pressure the opposition before the Rhino Specialist comes down. And I think that this Steel Ball Crawler Rush has been incredibly effective for Red Team because it's going to put the Air Specialist on the back foot right away, and then they will have to react to the Steel Ball Rush in order to avoid getting just completely annihilated when the Rhino, before the Rhino comes down. And then when the Rhino comes down, it's going to give them a whole other dimension that they have to react to. Also, obviously, Mustang Marksman is going to be a really rough combo against Steel Ball Crawler. That said, they are going to win this round because nothing that Red Team has can shoot up, so Blue Team is going to win the round, but I think that Red Team actually has won this exchange, even though they're going to end up losing the round because of how the matchup is actually going to look. It's also kind of nice for them that the Crawlers are taking all these shots because the Phoenixes actually aren't even going to level up or finish off all of the units. If they had managed to kill the Steel Balls beforehand, they'd have leveled up, but as is, Blue Team actually took a little bit more damage. If I'm Blue Team here, I'm probably looking at... Mass-produced Phoenix is interesting. I was considering Subsidized Crawler for both teams. Subsidized Crawler, I think, is by far the best choice for Red Team, because they already have a ton of Crawlers, and that's just going to give them tons of value as these Crawlers continue to level. They're putting in Mustangs, makes perfect sense against the Phoenixes, and is going to help pressure these air units significantly. Blue Team, I think you really need to generate some additional chaff for the Steel Balls, so they're going to go with Fangs. I think that makes a lot of sense, and the high explosive ammo is pretty valuable on the Mustangs, although I think they're just going to get overwhelmed here by the opposing Mustangs at this point, while the high explosive ammo targets mostly irrelevant things. Fangs into Mustangs are typically difficult, and Red Team has very wisely placed these late Crawlers, so they're going to come in behind all of these units and tank for the chaff, preventing the Mustangs from dying. Over here, though, we do still have Blue Team with some Phoenixes, but the Phoenixes are out ahead. Because the Phoenixes have been placed more centrally, they're going to be killed by the Mustangs, which means that these Mustangs are just not going to have air support and are going to be shooting Steel Balls while the enemy Mustangs kill them. I think one thing that you could have done to avoid this as Blue Team is maybe place the Phoenixes on the outer edges of the map, but you, with only a single unit of Phoenixes, need to have them where they can impact both sides of the board before you lose both turrets. Although, given that there was nothing that could shoot up when they placed them, I think that that is still going to be pretty bad. I'd be very surprised if we don't see Speed Specialists from Red Team when you're doing a Steel Ball Crawler Rush. That's exactly what you want to see. And if I was Blue Team, I'd be feeling pretty bad about this right now, because Rhino Steel Ball Crawlers who are already winning and rolled Speed Specialist is definitely extremely dangerous. These have been some of the best cards that they could possibly have rolled for Red Team. Definitely need to get in some more Phoenixes, and I think what you want with these Phoenixes is, do they have Launcher Overload? Alright, they don't have Overload or Charge Shot on the Phoenixes. That is going to be really tough against this Rhino. I think this Rhino is just going to run away with the game. Do they have EMP Shot on the Marksman? Okay, so I think EMP Shot on the Marksman is maybe your best route back into this. The oil makes a lot of sense. It's going to help with this round, but the Rhino I think is just going to be able to power right through, and I don't think that the Phoenixes are going to be able to target the Rhino before it breaks the tower. So blue team, I think, is really far behind. I think this is just an extremely textbook example of a steel ball crawler rush that is going to put blue team just completely out of it. I don't think there's many ways for them to come back, especially because they already spent on that oil. Deployment specialist for blue and underground threat for red. So red looking to put the nail in the coffin here. I think I'd have probably gone deployment specialist, but for red. But underground threat, you can place it maybe here. I don't know. Underground threat into the high explosive Mustangs, I don't think is going to cause a significant amount of... is going to have a significant impact. So they're just going for late crawlers. I think that may have been a mistake from red. I think that blue team has clearly signaled their intention to go mass Phoenixes here, so the underground threat is going to distract them, but maybe not help too much. I think that the thing that you need the most is just more Mustangs in order to counteract these Phoenixes. You can pick up range or anti-air on your Mustangs. They don't have... yeah, okay, they did get range Mustangs. I think anti-air Mustangs is probably what you want to be building here, and I would have just gone deployment specialist and 3 units of anti-air Mustangs here and been very happy. With 4 Mustang units, they are still in pretty good shape, though. But without having anti-air this round, I think the underground threat may not get them there, just because of the number of Phoenixes. Although the enemy Mustangs are dying so quickly that it will probably be irrelevant. I think red team was so far ahead that it didn't really matter what they picked, but the underground threat has had no impact to this wave. I think you could have gone for deployment specialist and been further ahead than with underground threat here. Like, basically all it did was 100 HP damage or so, because the underground threat crawlers didn't even get there by the time they had won this round. I think that senior manufacturing specialist makes a lot of sense for blue. You have to try something drastic here. And again, red team picking kind of odd choices. Shield drop is not going to do that much, given that... I guess if you expect them to go Vulcan, it's going to be pretty solid against the Vulcans. So, yeah, okay, this actually, I was wrong. This is an solid pick, because they can expect Vulcans from the opponent, given that they saw senior manufacturing specialist, and this will allow them to counteract those Vulcans. Another thing they could maybe have done is place another Rhino somewhere in the center, or maybe a flanking Rhino with the Rhino photon coating upgrade to distract the Vulcans. The Vulcan missiles are blocked pretty effectively by that shield, and of course the energy beam, energy absorption steel balls are going to annihilate any Vulcan they can actually target. On the other hand, they aren't targeting them, and the Phoenixes right now are killing stuff. They really need these steel balls to turn onto the Vulcan. I think they aren't going to in time before the Phoenixes kill some steel balls. We'll see if this one unit of Mustangs can overcome all the Phoenix units, but because they also broke through on this side, it's pretty rare that you see steel ball rush breakthrough on both sides. So the likelihood of that happening seemed low, but they were able to break through on both sides of the field because the Phoenixes were not placed in a defensive position, and there just simply was not enough defense in front of the tower. Portable shield is excellent anytime you're going steel balls. You should absolutely grab portable shield. You can place it on the steel balls, you can place it on the Rhinos. Probably the level 3 steel ball unit is going to get it, and that's going to be an enormous amount of damage absorption. This Vulcan, I think, is an excellent purchase. It's going to stop that problem that happened last round from happening. And actually, I think blue has gone a long way to get back into it because they have deployment specialist and senior manufacturing. Their economy is catching back up. Whereas red team has Rhino spec which is not continuing to give value and has not picked up any other economy options. The flanking crawlers here are just going to get killed by the Vulcan, so I'm a little confused by the placement there. But I do really like this Rhino mobile beacon. Vulcan mobile beacon, having it just spew fire everywhere is going to be extremely effective. This was an incredible play, this Vulcan mobile beacon, because it's placing all this fire in front of these Mustangs. The Rhino makes its way straight towards the tower, but actually gets sniped out by the Phoenixes. So while they do break the tower, they weren't quite able to make everything work. That said, the level 3 steel balls with the portable shields were just invincible this round and are going to carry. So red team was able to make this happen. I think blue team did an admirable job of getting back into it. I think red would have had better luck, or had I guess not better luck, they won, but had fewer routes for blue to get back in if they had gone for deployment specialist rather than going for the underground threat, which never came back up and wasn't really relevant in this game. Deployment specialist gave blue a route back into it, but because the steel balls had leveled up so much and they were so far ahead in terms of unit matchup and just right off the beginning, everything worked out well for them. Red team takes the victory. Let's see if we can find another high-level match going on, because that was pretty fun. Let's take a look at this one. We've got some tournament winners here. Yeah. All right, we've got blue versus red. A little bit into the game here, so we've got heavy armor versus cost control. And what's very interesting is that this player, blue, has gone for a mobile beacon, causing their fangs to just run back and forth, which is actually causing red's units to all charge in after the fangs in between all of these Mustangs. That's very cool. That said, it's just not working against these high-level Arclights, which are killing all the Mustangs while they're focusing those fangs. But that is an extremely cool mobile beacon tech. They are going to be able to keep up their shields and their anti-missile turrets, which is really bad whenever those live. So I think red is going to be pretty far ahead in this game. What spec was this guy again? So amplifying core, always an excellent pick, especially if you're ahead. We've got cost control. So blue could still get back in it. With cost control, you always have options because you just have so much money. I think you want to go for Lightning Storm here. You can try to knock down some of these units. I liked the mobile beacon tech with the fangs backing up, but to get away from these Arclights, I don't think that that's going to do it. I think that also you maybe wanted to save that tech for later in the game because it's such an expensive purchase at this point when you could have just have some more units. If I was blue team, I think at this point I would be looking to transition into marksmen probably, because they're very good against Arclights, they're very good against Phoenixes. The fangs and crawlers you can take care of using your Stormcallers. You could also consider just going for more Mustangs. Longer range Mustangs are going to be good against the Phoenixes, but very poor against the Arclights. Interestingly, these Arclights have range, charge shot, elite, and anti-aircraft. So this is the standard setup if you like carry Arclights as your build. I suggest going basically this build because you can build into carry Arclights. Once these level up, they're going to have a ton of advantages from the elite marksman as well. This mass Stormcaller build into already placed anti-air turret, anti-missile turrets is... I'm not loving that. I think that that is kind of a panic buy of just more Stormcallers. Obviously, they don't help against this core of the Phoenixes here, and you have no other, basically no other anti-air, because the Arclights are killing all the Mustangs so quickly. I think you needed to answer the Arclights and the Phoenixes, which are the thing that are really causing problems, and blue team is attempting to answer the chaff rather than answering the actual threats. Another option is you could maybe go melting points, something along those lines. There's a decent amount of crawlers and fangs as chaff for melting points, but it's a really rough position that he's put himself in by buying all of these Stormcallers against the crawlers and against the Phoenixes, which they don't do anything against. They're typically okay against Arclights, but Stormcallers don't even actually counter-carry Arclights that well because they're going to end up with so much range. Now that they have the plus range and the plus range from Marksman, the Arclight range is 149 and the Stormcaller range is actually only 140 now that he's gone for Launcher Overload. So the Arclights are going to get the first shot in, and they should be one-shotting these Stormcallers pretty much. Stormcallers with 900 health and Arclights with, actually just shy of 900 of 1,000 damage. So Stormcallers will live through one Arclight shot here, but will be almost dead. Shield Device Specialist for both players makes perfect sense. That's an incredible card that you should take pretty much every time you see it. This Mobile Beacon is going to pull in these Stormcallers and make them do some weird stuff, but because they can't move when they are attacking, they're going to stop moving. But now they're just going to target the crawlers. I like buying all these shields because I think you have to do something drastic, but you really need to answer these crawlers if you're going to go for shielded Stormcallers as your sort of main build here. And now that the Mustangs are dying, there's still some Phoenixes up. It might be able to make something happen. No, I don't think so, because this building's going to die. You're actually pretty happy that all your Stormcallers left the shields, though, if you're blue team, because you didn't lose. You get to keep 3 shields, which is much more than you would maybe expect from the position that you were in. Orbital Bombardment, yeah, great purchase here. It's going to mostly bounce off the shields, but it will still do a ton of damage. If you are blue, I think you should also grab Orbital. You could try to snipe out some of these Phoenix units. If you can take out the 2 Phoenix units, that's a lot of the damage gone. I think I would have placed that more centrally to try to hit this crawler, and the 2 Phoenix units. Charge shot on Arclight means they will now absolutely just be one-shotting the Stormcallers and also break through the shields much more effectively. Red team doesn't really have to change what they're doing at all at this point, just continue to upgrade these Arclights, and then they can mix in melting points or maybe Overlords later on. Actually, Overlords would be really strong for red team. So I would obviously much rather be in red's position here. Blue going for even more Stormcallers. I think that is probably not going to work. The guy in chat is actually pointing out he did forget to place the amp core, or at least has chosen not to place the amp core. There isn't really a good target for it though, so unless you're going for a giant of some kind, the amp core isn't going to be tremendously valuable. Great missile there, taking out the crawlers, though. So that actually means that the Stormcallers are shooting stuff instead of just wasting shots on the mobile beacon crawlers. This Phoenix unit is actually getting pretty distracted here. So the Stormcallers are doing work. I think maybe red team needed to go for something that breaks missiles a little sooner. Or breaks shields a little sooner. Which would probably be melting points or overlords, maybe some phoenixes, because the shield specialist being up on both sides is causing them some real problems. I didn't expect them to win this round, but doubling down on the Stormcallers worked really well, actually. So now you can expect that the opponent is going to go for some kind of shield breaking tech, whether that be Stormcallers of their own or Overlords. I think I probably just transitioned into Overlords. I'd have moved into Overlords last turn as red team. Just, I've been saying that the whole round, but red team pretty all in on these arc lights here. Shields are all broken, but also the anti-missile turrets are all broken, so both players down a lot of money in terms of consumables. This crawler unit dying right off the start was a huge deal, so you probably want to shield the crawler unit and then use your mobile beacon to distract all the storms. Enhancement module. You can use this to generate quite a bit of money by passing it between units that are about to level up and then selling that unit, which is a fun little tech. Like, for example, if you didn't want these fangs anymore, you place the enhancement module, you level them up for free, you sell them now for double value, then you move the enhancement module to something else, level those up for free, sell them for double value, and so on. Now we're placing the amp core. Where do you stick that? On a Mustang unit. Cool. And then we've got Final Blitz Rhino, which is going to run straight at the storms. I really think you should have blocked this missile, because it's still taking down the crawlers. Okay, nice. So he placed an anti-missile turret closer to the missile. But now the crawlers weren't mobile beaconed, because you had to mobile beacon the Rhino, which didn't make it in for the explosion. I think you still wanted to mobile beacon those crawlers. I don't like the Rhino tech. I think red team is panicking because he lost one round and really should just be transitioning into Overlords. The Stormcallers do nothing against them. Mustangs are just bad against Overlords. I think just going like 3 Overlords last round, maybe with artillery, you'd have won pretty easily. Does keep the anti-missile turrets alive, so that's something for sure. But both players are getting quite low and in severe danger. Orbital Javelin is great. When both players have the shield specialist, Orbital Javelin ignoring shields is great. I will say red team is much better positioned against the Javelin. You can hit this Fang unit and the Arc Light if you place it there, but against blue you can hit like a whole Fang unit and a Storm unit. Although the Fangs do have the shields, but still very valuable. Upgrading these Rhinos, I'm really not sure about this. I think the thing that is getting you is just not distracting the Stormfire with the crawlers here, because the mobile beacon is just not coming into effect and not taking advantage of the fact that your opponent has no anti-air. These Fangs are fine, and the Mustangs are fine, but triple Overlord or something like that would absolutely have run away with this game, I think. Four Rhinos in front, all with power armor. Immunity to slow is incredible, really, really strong. And Final Blitz, you rarely see this on Rhinos, so I am very interested in what it's going to do. I am really liking these players' strategies because of how unorthodox a lot of their plays are. Alright, taking out the level 2 enhancemented storms. I think you maybe wanted to kill this storm unit and knock out all the shields on the Fangs. The final blitzes are not doing anything because they're just killing Fang units. The number of air units on, or anti-air units on blue is decreasing, but because they have range enhancement and armor-piercing bullets, they don't even have anti-air spec equipped yet. I wonder if... I assume he doesn't have armor on Overlords, because most people don't go armored Overlords. Although Armored Overlords would be really good here. Alright, 137 health. Let's see what red team can do. Okay, so 30% increased HP. That's going to let the rhinos get into a better position. All these final blitz rhinos, I think, are just doing nothing. What do we get for blue team? I think for blue, you also want health. This is the advantage of cost control, is that you can continue to overwhelm them in the late game if you don't get pressured out. Smoke Bomb makes a lot of sense as well, actually. This is going to prevent these Arclights from doing too much. Hacker Tech, okay. With enhanced control against the rhinos, that's got to be GG. I don't think he can beat the hackers. He has no way to come back from his own rhinos turning against him. I think this rhino transition was awful, to be honest. I really do not believe that they final blitz rhinos was the way to go here. Any air unit would have been so valuable, and even just Stormcallers of your own. He had so many anti-missile turrets before they all got destroyed. His Stormcallers could absolutely have won a Storm duel. I think going for the Charge Shot Arclight may even have been a mistake, although I didn't realize that at the time. Obviously, it's easier to see these things in retrospect. Let's take a look at the Rhino here. So it might get through to the tower. No, it kills a Stormcaller and then gets turned around. If it had gotten through to the tower, it would have been worked. Yeah. I agree with the person in chat that he needed to get Overlords or Stormcallers of his own, I think would have been the natural counters to this play. Still, very cool to see these very unorthodox strategies clashing. I mean, I guess Mass Stormcaller is kind of last patch's meta, so it's not like this is an incredibly unorthodox strategy, but you don't see it as much anymore now that they've added the anti-missile turrets. That was an extremely cool game. And I feel like I learned a lot about just how to build some of these unorthodox strategies. I really like the enhanced control hackers against the rhinos, although I think the rhinos were an enormous mistake by red team. I think red was in a very commanding position and through the game by just not attacking on a different axis. He had all of these Arclights, but didn't end up using anything other than them, and gave up that missile onto his crawlers. The one turn that he tried to distract the Stormcaller fire with the crawlers, he didn't stop the missile. And then when he was stopping the missile, he had mobile beaconed other stuff, like the rhinos and so on. And so that one sentry missile ended up winning the game for blue, I think, basically. You really need to watch out for that when you're using crawler defenses with mobile beacons against Stormcallers. And I think that red more or less threw a one game, to be honest. Anyways, my friends, let me know if you've enjoyed this commentary and spectator mode for Mechabellum. We can definitely do more of this if this is something that people like. I have been playing a little less, but still enjoying the game quite a lot. And so this is one way to engage with the game that I have been having a lot of fun with. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching. And as always, you can leave a comment for the algorithm, like the video to help more people see this stuff. That's the genuflections that we have to do to the YouTube gods. And you can subscribe to my channel for more of this and other strategy game content. Cheers, friends. GG.